All right, this psychological skill is understanding this chemical and psychological dysregulation. So dysregulation basically means we're not chill. Like anytime you can't be in flow state. So if you're an athlete and you want to be better at being athletic, or if you want to be able to be in creative flow for your work or your art or anything that if you're in a flow state, you're going to do better. You want to be able to regulate your emotions and you're going to be able to regulate your body. Now, we can feel dysregulated chemically and psychologically and chemically. So chemical dysregulation comes from things like addictions, as well as things like not getting enough sleep, high dopamine behavior. So these would be behavioral addictions like porn, gambling, gaming, social media, sex addiction. So scrolling on your phone, even a relationship addiction. If you have very toxic relationship that's kind of on and off and you're fighting a lot, and then there's lots of love, and then there's fighting and there's love, that can become very addictive as well too. So we can get chemically dysregulated. So this is different than psychological. So psychological dysregulation is when we have the thought, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough unless. So those are your thought related. Chemical are things that happen in your body. And the ability to have control in the actual moment of having them, we really don't have a lot, except for to give acceptance and allowance of what's happening, and then to be able to make choices in the future that are going to decrease the chances of us having chemical anxiety or depression again in the future. So both basically both matter to your mental health and to your peace. So having chemical as well as psychological stability is fantastic. Now, let's say that you're addicted and you want to stop being addicted. One of the first steps is actually we want to strengthen the psychological. So if you say, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, it's going to be a lot harder for you to deal with chemical anxiety in a constructive way. So that when people come into therapy, one of the first things we say is we want to bring awareness to the drugs, alcohol, and behavioral addictions that we have. Absolutely. We want to give ourselves love and compassion and then move towards gentle correction and changing that behavior. But fundamentally, you need to know that you are lovable regardless if you are addicted to any of these or you're having any of these behavioral addictions. And that's going to be the start of how we're going to start changing it. So it's not instant thought of, oh, I'm just going to give up all my substances, because when you are chemically dysregulated, so you haven't had your coffee that morning, you drank alcohol the night before, you are addicted to nicotine and you haven't had your nicotine in the last 2 hours, you are going to be more susceptible to psychological anxiety and depression. You're going to be more irritable. You're going to be more anxious. So by focusing on our psychology first and then starting to approach the chemical. So both are important. And I'm not saying that you can't jump into chemical, but if you think that you're not enough unless you get rid of your addictions, you're going to stay stuck in that loop of self-attack. So we want to get out of the loop of self-attack where we're no longer having triggered thoughts that are triggering the body into anxiety and having chemical anxiety that's triggering psychological thoughts. An example of this is in the morning and you're a coffee drinker and you haven't had your coffee yet, and then you're super irritable with your spouse or your kids. That's an example of chemical anxiety. So when we first start bringing awareness to this whole concept, the point of it is to start asking yourself, what's happening right now? I'm agitated right now. I feel ill or irritable. What is this, chemical or is it psychological? Am I having a thought, oh my gosh, that person's going to judge me, or they're doing something I've told myself I can't do? Or is it because I haven't had my coffee or the nicotine, or it's bedtime and I haven't smoked pot and I smoke pot every day, or I used porn 4 times yesterday and now I'm feeling really depressed and low motivation. So being able to identify, is it chemical or psychological, is the first step. And then giving yourself compassion. So when you're stuck in this place, move over here. When we're stuck in this place, the way out is actually going to be giving yourself, we need to stabilize the psychology, which I've already said. So you need to know you are enough always. It doesn't matter what you have done that's been less than loving to your body. You are always enough. So this is the primary thought. Knowing that you're lovable is what's going to help you to release addictions and chemical dependencies in your life. And then, so it's noticing that irritability that you feel before you've had that morning coffee. It's noticing the dip in your mood and your energy around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and just saying, oh, I can feel I'm less energetic. Oh, and I'm noticing in the afternoon, that's when I'm craving chocolate, right? So you're having even behaviors based on the withdrawal. Same thing happens with other behavioral addictions too. So just noticing the behavioral addictions you have in your life and start making those connections. If you have chemical addictions like alcohol or pot, where you're using these on a daily basis, you would have a chemical dependence, which means that when you're using them, you're going to have certain symptoms like decreased energy and drowsiness with alcohol, maybe increased impulsivity and poor judgment. And then also you're going to have withdrawal symptoms like irritability and restlessness. So when you're going through any kind of withdrawal, when you've already established I'm lovable, I'm worthy, and then you're going through that withdrawal, you're able to tell yourself, this is the drug, the chemical, or the behavior getting out of me. I'm going to use this as motivation to not use this in the future because I love myself so much. I want to choose again. I want to choose differently, opposed to attacking yourself and being hard on yourself. So that might be the morning that you decide that you're going to not have the coffee, to take a little extra time meditating, or let your family know, this morning I'm going to have to be extra gentle with myself because my body's in a chemical withdrawal, and this is what I'm choosing to do as an act of love to myself. I ask for your patience with me while I go through this period. And most of the chemical addictions, so alcohol, pot, even ADHD drugs, nicotine, caffeine, cocaine, SSRIs, which are like antidepressants, morphine, sedatives, all of them you stabilize. The acute withdrawal is usually the first 3 days. SSRIs might be the first 4 days because there's usually it takes a little bit of time before you start that withdrawal. But all of them, within a week, you're going to start feeling better. Caffeine, is really a good solid 24 hours after is the first 2 days, and then you start feeling better. So there's nothing you have to do. If you're drinking coffee every day, you're drinking alcohol or smoking your pot, and you say, you know what, this is something that's not affecting my life. It's not something I need to change. I see no chemical anxiety. I see no chemical depression. I don't have any low motivation. This brings joy to my life. I'm using it on a consistent basis. I'm not increasing use or decreasing use. It's not something I want to change. There's nothing you have to change, exactly where you are. But if you are bringing awareness to it and you're noticing that the only time that you're feeling okay is when you're using, that's a sign that you're dependent on it, and you're going to benefit a lot if this is something that you could remove from your life. But again, there's nothing you have to do. So social media is another big thing. Netflix, getting stuck into that loop. So just bringing awareness. What happens when I get stuck on my phone for 3 hours? Is that what I want to do? What else could I do? And then learning how to use the self-regulation skills that we're learning in the therapy, including breath work and meditation, to help you overcome them. So stabilizing psychology is the first step. The second is to see correctly and bring awareness without attack. So you don't deserve attack for having withdrawal or for having an addiction or having a dependence to anything. So if you're noticing your screen time's 8 hours a day, you don't deserve attack. That's your best. It's probably a call for love. It's probably reflective of you seeking outside of yourself to feel like you're enough in some way, or it's the way you're processing your emotions. You're struggling with the self-love, and then that's leading to these behaviors or these chemical uses. And then make changes within your control. So there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to stop alcohol cold turkey. Do what feels loving. If that means that you just drink enough to not have withdrawal until you're ready to go down a little bit more. Alcohol is probably the only one too that we wouldn't want to go cold turkey, or if you did go cold turkey, be open to flexing on that a little bit because it sometimes can be dangerous. But somebody that can support you in that. So you're welcome to reach out if that was the case for you, if you're not really sure if you're doing that safely. And then accept things outside your control and adapt. So if you're already in withdrawal, that's when you adapt and you say, "Bam, this is my best today. I'm going to be extra gentle with myself. I'm going to take the day off work. I'm going to lay on the couch. I'm going to be loving to myself." And then also accepting things outside your control. There's a couple things something outside your control is hormonal changes. So puberty, so when puberty symptoms come on, premenstrual symptoms, and perimenopause, those can actually cause chemical dysregulations, hot flashes. It's going to feel completely outside of your control, and you might feel more irritable, and you might have a harder time regulating your emotions chemically because chemically you're dysregulated. But if you can bring awareness to that, be really gentle with yourself and say, "Oh my gosh, my body needs extra love today." That's what's going to allow you to not be affected psychologically. And then the core of this, I don't know if you can say the bottom, yes, you can. So Self-love, regardless of the outcome. So regardless of what happens. So say you attempt to stop and then you don't stop, or you decrease, but then you can't do it completely. Be gentle with yourself. You only deserve love at all times. A part of the CBT for overcoming any actual chemical addictions is this thought. The only time a user feels like a non-user is when they're using, because that's the only time you're not withdrawal. So the goal of approaching your addictions and getting rid of addictions and releasing them as you're ready, there's nothing you have to do, but psychologically getting ready and then chemically releasing them as an act of love to yourself, what's going to do is it's going to allow you to feel like you're using all the time. So when someone's addicted to alcohol, pot, nicotine, caffeine, the only time that you actually feel like a non-user is when you've used a moderate amount. So if that's like one cigarette or one or two drinks. So not to a point where you're high or you're drunk, but you're just at a point where you no longer have withdrawal. That's what you'd feel like all the time if you were to release that substance. So that's just something to consider. Reflect on your life. This is the lesson for this week. To reflect on your life and notice, do you have any chemical anxiety? Ask yourself, am I chemically dysregulated? If you didn't get enough sleep, that also can cause chemical dysregulation. So be extra gentle with yourself. Have an extra meditation that day. Get a little nap in. Also, meditation practice can help you when you do choose to go through withdrawal. So not only psychologically reminding yourself that you're so lovable and that you only deserve love, compassion, gentle correction, but also being able to use the skills like breath work and meditation to get through any withdrawal you might be having or before you go and use. Another thing that I maybe didn't put on there for behavioral addictions is food addictions. So binge eating, under eating, different forms of self-harm with food. You can use the breath and meditation to remind yourself that you're lovable, that there's nothing you have to do, but what do you want to do? What feels most loving? And then you can always choose again as an act of love.